Hey everyone, welcome back to the Growth Zone. I'm George and I'm here with Kate.
Hi there, folks. Today, we're talking about something everyone can relate to, mistakes, and how they don't have to be the end of the world. In fact, they might just be the beginning of something better.
Have you ever made a mistake that felt like it defined you?
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
Remember how it knocked your confidence or made you question everything you thought you knew? Well, today we're going to talk about how you can bounce back from those moments and actually come out stronger.
Let me tell you a story about someone we'll call Emma. Emma's a college student who's been doing great in all her classes. She's prepared for the big final exam, but then, boom, she fails. Suddenly, her world feels like it's crumbling, and she's questioning whether she's even cut out for this. Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely, it's one of those moments where the mistake feels like a giant roadblock. But before we dive into what happened with Emma, let's first explore why failure can feel so tough and how it affects our ability to learn.
A 2019 study really sheds light on this. It involved 400 participants who were tasked with learning a completely made-up language. These participants were divided into two groups. One group was told they had failed a particular task, while the other group wasn't given any feedback at all. Even though both groups had the same amount of information and the same time to learn, those who were told they had failed found it much harder to process the next set of tasks. They struggled more, even though their knowledge and understanding were no different from the other group.
That's fascinating, isn't it? It's not just about what we know, it's about how we feel about what we know. When the participants were told they had failed, it triggered a psychological response that block their ability to absorb new information. The message here is that failure isn't just a setback in the traditional sense. It can actually disrupt cognitive functions, like memory and learning ability, because it hits at something deeper, our self-image. When we perceive ourselves as failures, our brains can become less efficient, as though we've hit a mental roadblock.
Exactly, George. This study shows that it's not just about getting the facts right, it's about our emotional reaction to a mistake. The negative emotions that come with failure, like frustration or embarrassment, can cloud our ability to think clearly and process new information. And that's why maintaining a positive self-image, even after failure, is so important. If we let failure impact our self-esteem too much, we make it harder to bounce back and learn from the experience.
Agree, and that's why resilience is key. Mistakes aren't just setbacks, they're opportunities to learn and grow. If we embrace them, they can actually help us build better strategies moving forward.
So why do we need mistakes at all?
Well, they challenge us, they push us out of our comfort zones, and force us to reassess what we know.
And the best part is,
They encourage growth.
sure, learning from success is easy, it feels good, and we know exactly what worked. But mistakes, they're messy, they're complex, and that's why they can lead to the most profound lessons.
And that's where resilience really comes into play. By adopting a growth mindset, by seeing mistakes as part of the learning process, you can turn them into valuable stepping stones. The key is not just to bounce back, but to bounce back stronger.
Now, let's talk about some tools you can use to bounce back.
One of the most effective strategies for bouncing back after a mistake is keeping a reflection journal. It's a simple yet powerful tool. The idea is to write down what went wrong, why it happened, and what you can do differently next time. But it's not just about writing a list. The key is to really dig into the experience and reflect thoughtfully.
Let's say you've made a mistake, like missing an important deadline at work. In your reflection journal, you don't just write, "I missed the deadline." Instead, you break it down. What led to this mistake? Was it poor time management? Did you underestimate the complexity of the task? Were there external factors like interruptions or distractions that contributed? By answering these questions, you start to make sense of the situation, and more importantly, you begin to see patterns that can help you avoid similar mistakes in the future.
Another incredibly helpful tool to bounce back from mistakes is the GROW model. It's a structured approach that breaks down your setback into 4 key steps: goal, reality, options, and will. Let's walk through this, step by step,
First up, you start with goal. This is about redefining what you want to achieve after your setback. Let's say you've failed to meet a deadline at work, like we mentioned earlier. The first thing you need to do is to clarify your new goal. For instance, your goal might be to submit projects on time or manage my tasks more effectively in the future.
Right. Now, after you've identified your goal, the next step is to assess your reality. This is where you take a hard look at where you are right now and what led to the setback. Ask yourself questions like, what went wrong? What caused the delay? Were there external factors like too many interruptions? Or was it internal, like not managing time properly?
This step is all about being honest with yourself. It might feel uncomfortable to confront what went wrong, but it's essential for learning. Let's say you realize that part of the reason you missed the deadline was that you didn't prioritize your tasks properly. This reality check is key to understanding the root cause and setting yourself up for success.
Now that you've understood your reality, it's time for the options step. This is where you brainstorm all the possible ways you can move forward. What are your choices for improving the situation? Can you delegate some tasks? Can you break down the project into smaller chunks? Could you use a time management tool like the Pomodoro technique to stay on track?
This step encourages creativity. The more options you consider, the more you can tailor your next approach to suit your needs. For example, if you realize you're overwhelmed by multitasking, you might try focusing on one task at a time and setting clear priorities. You could also consider using apps like Trello or Asana to organize your tasks more effectively.
The final step in the GROW model is will, which is all about committing to a course of action. This is where you choose a specific option from the list you brainstormed and decide when and how you're going to implement it. It's about creating a concrete plan. For example, you could decide to set up weekly check-ins with your team to keep track of progress, or you could allocate specific times in your calendar each day for focused work sessions.
Yes, this is where the rubber hits the road. Having a clear, actionable plan is what helps you overcome setbacks. Let's say you set the goal of submitting your projects on time in the future, and you've decided to use the Pomodoro technique. Now, you schedule regular breaks and focus on one task at a time. By committing to this new plan, you're setting yourself up for success.
And the beauty of the GROW model is that it's not just about addressing setbacks, it helps you build a roadmap for future success. Every time you apply this method, you'll get better at handling challenges and adjusting your approach. Over time, it becomes a habit that leads to greater resilience and productivity.
Let's not forget another powerful tool in your toolkit for bouncing back is the SWOT analysis. This tool helps you take a comprehensive look at where you are and how you can move forward. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Let's see how it works.
The first part of the SWOT analysis is strengths. This is where you reflect on what you're doing well and what you have going for you. Take a moment to recognize your positive attributes. For example, if you're a student who made a mistake on a test, think about what your strengths are. Maybe you have great time management skills or a solid grasp of the subject matter. Recognizing these strengths is vital because it helps you build confidence and focus on what you can leverage to improve.
Understanding your strengths gives you a sense of direction and reminds you of your abilities. It's easy to get discouraged when you make mistakes, but when you focus on what's working, you set yourself up to succeed. For example, if you're in a job and made a mistake with a presentation, maybe your strength is your ability to research and gather data. You can lean into that strength next time to create a more impactful presentation.
Now moving on to the next part, weaknesses. This is where you acknowledge areas that need improvement. It can be tough to face our weaknesses, but it's a necessary step in growth. Let's say, back to the student example, your weakness could be that you didn't allocate enough time to study for the exam or that you rushed through your practice tests. By identifying your weaknesses, you can come up with strategies to improve them.
Right. Recognizing your weaknesses isn't about being hard on yourself, it's about being honest. When you can identify them, you open the door to change. Maybe you can work on your study habits or set up a more effective schedule. This awareness is where growth begins.
Then we move to opportunities. This is about looking at external factors that could help you improve. Are there any resources or situations you can take advantage of? For example, maybe your school offers free tutoring sessions, or your company provides opportunities for additional training. These are opportunities you can use to build on your strengths and address your weaknesses.
Don't stress yourself out with, where do I get my opportunities from? Opportunities often come in the form of support from others, new skills you can learn, or external resources that could make your task easier. You should always be on the lookout for these. If you're facing setbacks, exploring opportunities might be the key to finding a better solution.
Finally, we have threats, things that might get in your way. These could be external challenges that are outside your control but still affect your progress. For instance, maybe there's a deadline you can't extend, or maybe there's competition for a job you're applying for. Identifying threats helps you prepare for challenges and figure out how to mitigate them.
It's not always about avoiding threats. Sometimes it's about managing them. For example, if you're juggling multiple deadlines, you might need to adjust your workload or set realistic expectations. Recognizing these threats ahead of time lets you take action before they overwhelm you.
So when you put all of this together, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, it gives you a clearer picture of where you stand and where you need to go. It's like taking stock of your current situation and mapping out a path forward. It's a tool that helps you make more informed decisions and take more targeted actions.
SWOT is simple but powerful. It's an easy-to-use tool that you can apply in any area of your life, whether it's in your studies, career, or personal growth. Every time you hit a roadblock, a quick SWOT analysis can help you bounce back with more clarity and confidence.
And here's something that's often overlooked, but incredibly important when it comes to bouncing back from mistakes: self-forgiveness. We all have that inner critic, the voice inside our heads that tells us we're not good enough or that we've completely messed up. And while it's normal to feel bad after a mistake, holding on to that guilt for too long can be counterproductive.
Yes, George, thank you. All the time. The truth is, we can be our own toughest critics. Think about it. After you mess up, how many times do you replay the mistake in your head, wishing you had done things differently? You beat yourself up, sometimes even questioning your abilities or your worth. But here's the kicker. If you keep holding on to that negative self-talk, you're not giving yourself the room to grow.
Because when we don't forgive ourselves, we end up stuck in the past, constantly looking back at what went wrong instead of focusing on what we can do better in the future. Self-forgiveness is not about letting yourself off the hook for making mistakes. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight that mistakes can carry.
And that emotional weight is heavy. It can cloud your judgment, affect your motivation, and ultimately hinder your ability to learn and improve. When you forgive yourself, you create space in your mind to process the mistake objectively. You can ask, what went wrong? What can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? Without the constant barrage of guilt and self-blame.
Think about how much mental energy you're wasting by holding on to guilt. It's like trying to drive forward while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. Self-forgiveness allows you to look forward again, focus on the present, and take positive steps towards your goals.
Now, I know it's easier said than done. It's not always natural to forgive yourself, especially when you've let yourself down or when the stakes are high. But the key here is to recognize that mistakes are part of the learning process. They don't define you, they're just feedback. It's not about being perfect, it's about being human.
Whenever you're struggling to forgive yourself, try writing a letter to yourself. In the letter, acknowledge the mistake, express understanding and compassion for why it happened, and remind yourself that you're still capable of growing and moving forward. Treat yourself the way you would treat a good friend. Would you be as harsh on them as you are on yourself?
That's such a great exercise, George. Self-compassion helps shift your mindset from "I failed" to "I've learned and I can improve." When you allow yourself that kind of grace, you give your brain the space to adapt and bounce back. It's not about erasing the mistake, it's about learning from it and moving forward without the weight of regret holding you down.
And when you forgive yourself, you also build emotional resilience. You stop letting mistakes knock you off course, and instead you start seeing them as stepping stones. Each mistake becomes less about what went wrong and more about what's possible next. In short, self-forgiveness doesn't just heal, it propels you forward.
So what happened with Emma?
Well, she decided to take a step back. Instead of dwelling on her failure, she used her reflection journal to dig into what went wrong. She realized she had been focusing too much on memorization and not enough on understanding the material.
Exactly, George. By shifting the strategy, she created a study plan that worked for her learning style, and by the next exam, she not only passed but aced it. Her confidence grew, and she learned to approach challenges in a more strategic way.
Emma's mistake didn't define her. It was actually the catalyst for her growth. She took the lesson, adapted, and found success. That's the real power of resilience.
Remember, mistakes don't define you, they teach you.
Use tools like the Grow model, reflection journals, and a growth mindset to turn those setbacks into comebacks.
And don't forget to focus on your strengths. By building resilience, you'll learn how to embrace mistakes as part of your journey.
For more tips on overcoming setbacks and using life coaching tools, check out our podcast series, Step-by-Step Success, Achievable Goals and Motivation. You've got this. Thanks for tuning in. Keep growing, and remember, every mistake is just another step toward success. Until next time, stay inspired